another episode of WingNut and RockHead. So, we are back from a little hiatus. It's only been 2 weeks, right? We took the last week off. There was Father's Day. There was a lot going on. We had company, and it was just a little too much working on the house. And we figured, well, let's just take the weekend off and do that. And oh, I know why. Because Doris May was not available. They had an event to go to, so we were going to go Saturday to do that, and then get all the walk around. But we're going to do that next weekend, which is this weekend, actually tomorrow. So we're going to do walk around with John Lackey at the CAF Capital Squadron up in Culpeper, Virginia. We're going to talk about how the nose art came to be, the history of that TBM, and we'll meet with some of the crew up there that maintain the TBM. She's going to see it again up close for the first time, right?
No, I've seen it several times. Yeah.
Up close? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to take you guys on a walk around and inside and up close personal on that particular TBM. We'll find out some interesting things about that, interesting facts, a snafu with the nose art, which we'll get into. And anyway, without further ado, here's the walk around.
I'm here at the Capitol Wing of the CAF in Culpeper, Virginia, with John Lackey and John Jackson, the Johns, and they are going to teach us all about Doris May. So, I'd love to hear about this beautiful TBM and your fun fact from earlier.
John's been here the longest. Let him lead off.
So you're looking at the largest, heaviest airplane that was operated by the Navy and Marine Corps during World War II off of aircraft carriers. Everybody likes to say, oh, they operated B-25s from the Hornet during the Doolittle raid. That's fine, and then they did, but they couldn't recover on board the carrier. This could recover on board the carrier. Up front, you've got a 2,600 cubic inch engine, produces 1,900 horsepower. The aircraft is capable of 275 miles per hour, top speed. It carried a single 2,000-pound torpedo in the bomb bay, or bombs. Later models like this one mounted 4 rockets under each wing. It had a 50 caliber machine gun in each wing root, in addition to the 50 caliber in the turret, and the 30 caliber machine gun in the belly.
Now, where was the torpedo? The torpedo was underneath.
Yeah, right carried in the bomb bay.
And that
Look
probably.
up, you can see right in there.
Wow.
That's where the torpedo.
Just
was.
one torpedo took up all that.
Yeah, the torpedo was 13 feet long. It took up that entire space.
Oh my gosh.
And as John said, the alternate, you could put 4 500-pound bombs in there.
Wow. 400 or 500. That's crazy.
Or per 1,000. Yeah, whatever bomb combination you want. As long as it didn't go above 2,000 pounds. Alternately, they could put a fuel tank in here also. So instead of 4 hours in the air, you could do almost 8 hours in the air. And anyone that could sit in this airplane for 8 hours, God bless him, and better men than I.
What was the most common scenario?
Probably the bombs.
Oh, the bombs?
The bombs, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to take a little walk around to the Doris May, and we're going to learn a little bit more about her. Let's go.
All right, so this is the crew compartment. This is where the radioman sat. This is also where the turret operator would climb in. Ours is a little empty. When they were in combat, they had a lot more radio equipment in here than this.
Wow. I guess you can't be claustrophobic.
It's pretty big inside.
How many people were normally in here at once?
You had a radio operator that sat on the seat right here.
Okay.
I do not. I was just going to ask you. There's Andrew. At least on the four-wheel. Morning.
Which I've just unstowed. So he sat here, operated the radios, and then you had the turret operator.
We're here inside I guess this is the turret,
That's
and the rest is
This would be the radio compartment.
the radio compartment. Okay. And this is kind of tight quarters. I mean, it's not that bad. I'm sure it's bigger than the tank you were in a couple weeks ago, Gary. But it's kind of tight. It's kind of dark. I can't imagine being in here for hours or anything like that. So we've got 4 people stuffed in here.
We do. And it would actually be tighter during the war because there was actually a radio set actually pretty much right where you are. There was equipment here along both sides of the walls, and there was actually a radar scope over here on this side. So there was a lot more equipment in here during the war.
Wow.
Could put a bomb site right there as well.
Yeah, bomb site right about where your feet are.
Wow.
Yeah.
People were just squished in here. I guess that's why they only had 2 in here.
It was built for war, not comfort.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It is dark. It gets pretty warm back here. The windows aren't bad. It's not a bad view out the windows. So, and you know, if things got really bad and you got a 0 on your tail, you flip the seat up and you had to operate the 30. You had to lay down on your stomach and shoot that 30.
Wow.
And
So
of course,
cool.
you also had extra ammunition boxes in here. You had parachutes. You
Parachutes,
had
yeah.
the crew's gear. So it was pretty well stuffed.
And you got like how many other people are in this, like flying the plane? Probably 2 or 3 up there.
Just the pilot.
Just the pilot.
Just
one
the pilot up there, yeah.
Okay, so because I was thinking how many parachutes would need to be in here, so you just need 3 parachutes.
The
then.
pilot would wear his. He would sit on his, and then these 2 crewmen had a harness, and they used chest packs that would snap on because he couldn't sit on obviously couldn't sit on a chute in there in the turret seat at all. It's too tight.
Right.
So he had to slide down out of there, grab the chest chute, snap it on, and get out the door.
Right, and if he's laying on his belly, you know, shooting out the tail,
Yep,
then
he'd have to jump up,
wow.
again, grab a chute, snap on a chute.
All the while dealing with G-forces too,
Yeah.
and movement of the airplane.
Yeah, and then
That's
obviously it's hard to see in here. You're probably not sure what's going on. It's just your pilot telling you to bail out.
yeah. I would think that would be a really hard part because you know, like it
would be.
like if this was all windows, it would be because then you can see what's going on. The other way, you're just kind of like it's almost like you're blind, tunnel vision, and you're just depending on other people to guide you.
Yeah, and
Tell
I'm
you
sure
what to
it's
do.
very chaotic, and you know a lot of fog of war. Definitely, that was it.
Might be smoke in here if you're going to bail
Oh,
out.
wow,
It
yeah.
could be damaged.
I hadn't even thought about that. That would be
You've got hydraulic lines in the front of the compartment. If those are ruptured, that will spray hydraulic fluid in it. If it's a fine enough hole, it comes out as a mist. It'll look like smoke, and of course it's hot. So, yeah, it would not be a happy place to be. It's all aluminum construction. There is no armor plate back here, so if they shot at you, it's coming right through this fuselage. The gunner did have some armor plate. This piece right here is armor. This heavy piece, and then the sight glass up there, that's bulletproof glass. And then the pilot had a piece of armor plate behind his seat, and that was it for armor. So,
there's so many little pieces and everything. This radio is like antique too. Very cool.
it is. Try convincing today's kids that a radio had to be that big. You know, when they have their cell phone, they
I know,
hold
or
it
they
right in
have
the
a
palm
little
of their
MP3
hand,
player, yeah.
and they've got everything they need.
This is a tail hook and a resting hook, which is the whole manner in which the airplanes land on the carrier deck. You've got wires that are across the deck,
Okay.
about 5 wires, about the steel cables basically. And as the pilot comes in to land, this hook is basically laying
Right.
almost vertical to
Hanging.
it. And it catches one of the wires and stops the airplane.
Oh wow.
So it's almost like, you know, if you were on springs and it gives a
yeah.
little bit, and then
Yeah.
the wire drops, and then the plane moves off, and then the next one comes in to land behind it.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And so without that, you couldn't operate on the carriers unless you had vertical takeoff and landing airplanes.
Right.
Or jump deck planes.
Yeah. Okay. I get it. Yeah.
Yep.
So this is really cool. The way the wings fold up. Can you tell us about that?
I certainly can. And this method of wing stowage was called the stow wing. It was designed by Grumman. And it's an incredibly elegant and simple solution to a problem with a carrier-borne airplane, which is making as many as possible fit on board. And it's so simple. This is your actual wing hinge right here. And it's all to do with the geometry of these hinges, how they're angled to the wing. And then there's two hydraulic cylinders here. They either push away or draw into each other, that fold the wing and unfold the wing. It's so simple, it's just elegant. So this outer wing is attached only at these two hinge points, right here and here. And then this lug right here folds up. It's captured in here and it's hydraulically locked in place. And those are the only 3 points where this wing is attached to the rest of the airplane.
Wow. That's amazing. And it never faltered, like just it's only got those 3 points, but it always does what it's supposed to do?
It always does what it's supposed to do.
That's great. Sometimes the simplest way is the best.
Exactly.
Well, it's still, the design is very complex, and you got a lot of pressure.
The geometry is complex.
Right. But there's a lot of pressure on those little points with all this weight and G-forces on the wings just for those little points. So it's amazing that it works as well as it does, yeah.
Yeah, the myth is, or the tale is, that Leroy Grumman, when the Navy was asking him to modify the wings on the F4F Wildcat, which originally the first versions did not have a wing folding mechanism. And so they were in a conference and he had a paper clip and an eraser and was playing with it and goes, oh, we can do that. And that's how he came up with the wing fold design, which went into the Wildcats, the Avengers, the Hellcats. They all had the same type of wing folding mechanism.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about the engine, and also I'm very curious, what is that? What's written there?
Honestly, I'm not sure what the top number is. Second number looks like a manufacturer's number.
Oh, that's all it is?
And this is giving you the pitch. So low pitch, 22, high pitch, 49.
And this is pitch, the blades turn.
Oh, okay, I understand now. Okay, the turning of the blades.
Right.
Okay. Now tell us about this engine. This giant monstrosity.
This is a Wright R2600. So 2600 denotes the displacement. It's 2,600 cubic inches. It's a 14-cylinder, twin-row radial engine, 2-speed supercharger. It produces 1,900 horsepower. Drinks a lot of gas.
And looking at it, it looks like I'm looking at, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 engines there.
You have 7 cylinders, air-cooled, and then behind that are an additional 7 cylinders,
Oh, wow.
for a total of 14.
That's immense. That's crazy.
Those pistons in there, they're about 6 inches in diameter each.
How often do you have to clean that?
A lot.
A lot?
Pretty much after every flight, yeah.
So John, tell us about the airframe now. We know the history about the Doris May, the original one, but tell us a little bit more about this particular airframe and its restoration.
This actual airframe was taken on charge by the Marine Corps 2 weeks before the end of the war. It was assigned to training units in California. Sometime in the 50s, it was sold to the Royal Canadian Navy, and they converted it to an anti-sub warfare aircraft. So they stripped off the turret, added radar, and they flew it on anti-sub duties into the 60s. During the 60s, they sold it off as surplus, and it was purchased by a civilian company and converted to a fire bomber. And it flew as a fire bomber until 1994. In 94, 95, it was placed in storage, and eventually it was put up for sale, and that's when the CAF purchased it. And we brought it into the United States about 2 weeks after 9/11/2001.
So tell us
It was restored in Fawn Grove, Pennsylvania, by a gentleman named Jack Costco and his crew. That restoration took about 10 years.
And why is this thing called a turkey?
Because of its really large size and in landing configuration, with the flaps down, it resembles a turkey. It's like this big fat bird with a long spindly landing gear hanging out. Resembles a turkey. Also, it was the biggest bird on the deck.
Wow.
So that's the story of Doris May.
Well, when did she become Doris May? When did that happen?
Well, during restoration, we decided to honor an aircrew, a particular aircrew, and we thought it would be really cool if we could have some nose art on the airplane. And there was only one Marine unit during World War II that flew Avengers that had nose art, and that was VMTB 143. They were called the Rocket Rangers. And Doris May was the only pinup nose art in the entire squadron. So that's the identity she took on, and that's when she became Doris May.
Okay, we're here in the Doris May, and I'm not sure what seat this is other than I guess my eyes were used to help the pilot.
We call this the observer seat, and only the first 100 or so TBM or TBF actually, Avengers had this seat installed. After the first 100, I think the Navy decided they didn't want another crewman in here, so they removed it.
Oh, wow.
And on a late model Avenger like this one, this area was actually taken up with the autopilot, which is why you see a yoke down there and those cables, and that's actually the autopilot was installed there so it can control the aircraft.
This is awesome.
We've added the seat back in just to give us the additional seating capacity.
It's actually much more comfortable in here than it was back there.
It is, but it gets very hot in here under this greenhouse.
I'll bet. Yeah, I
Very
guess I
hot.
can't keep this open, can I?
No.
Now I'm here in the pilot's seat of the TBM Doris May. This thing is amazing. Oh my God, this is so cool. I wish cars were set up more like this. Everything is just right at your fingertips. And it looks very, very complicated, but from what I'm told, it's really very simple.
Everything's pretty basic, yeah. Nothing terribly complicated here.
What is some of this foot, like this thing up here? I know you said it's a compass.
That's a magnetic compass.
You can barely see it, though. Hopefully it was brighter back then.
It actually was illuminated. There was a light inside of it, and you could turn it up or down.
Now, isn't this a compass, too? Is this like a backup?
Right. Okay. So it's got multiple compasses. It's got a redundancy. Obviously, there's some things here that you wouldn't have found during World War II, like the GPS.
Yeah. Garmin.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
That makes sense. I didn't even notice that.
It's got a more modern transponder and more modern radio. So
Very cool.
Also got
Supercharger. I just love that word.
Right.
Supercharger and throttle.
right. So this engine had a built-in supercharger, and it had 2 speeds. So you had low speed and high speed. You'd only use high above 10,000 feet, and we actually don't use it. We never fly that high. We don't carry oxygen, for one thing. Originally, they did have oxygen. It's all very straightforward. I like to tell people it's got a steering wheel, but what that is, that's an elevator trim.
Thing?
Yep. That's the elevator trim. On the top of the panel, that's your rudder trim.
Okay.
And you'll almost always run right rudder to counteract the left turning tendencies of the propeller driven airplane. On the front of that panel, it's actually got an aileron trim.
Are all propeller-driven airplanes left?
Except for the Eastern Bloc aircraft, their propellers spin in the opposite direction. So,
Oh, so because the propeller turns one way, it tends
right,
to
the
lean that
torque,
way. I didn't know that.
both the torque, there's called P factor, which is the way the propeller hits the air differently on either side of the airplane, and also the way the airflow hits the side of the airplane, creates the turning tendency. So, for your Allied airplanes, they want to turn left.
Very interesting.
And it's worse at lower speeds and higher power settings.
And this turn coordinator, is that how you keep track of it?
That's the ball. You step on the ball. Yeah. If you're sliding, you don't want to slide through the air. It's very inefficient. At slow speeds, you run the risk of a stall. So you step on the ball to keep the plane coordinated during the turn.
So give us your fun fact.
Oh, the fun fact. I have a fun fact about Doris May. Doris May is a TBM, which is a something bomber.
Torpedo bomber.
Torpedo bomber? That's it. It carries a torpedo, a giant torpedo underneath it. But the M stands for General Motors, because General Motors actually made this TBM. I'm not good at this fun fact. Can you fill in the blanks there, John?
Yeah, the airplane was originally designed by Grumman Aircraft,
Okay.
and that's why its designation was TBF, because under the 1940s nomenclature, F was the manufacturer Grumman. So when it changed to General Motors actually manufacturing the airplane, then they had the M designator for General Motors. So it became a TBM.
Yeah, I found that very interesting. I thought that'd make a great fun fact, but unfortunately I had a horrible memory.
Motors built most of the Avengers. Grumman built just under 4,000, and General Motors built the rest of the nearly 10,000 that were built. So they actually built more than Grumman did.
So many planes were made. Well, that was a fun fact. So thank you so much for letting us come by and take a look at the Doris May and explaining all this great stuff. And, if anybody wants to help out, come by, take a tour, preserve history, spread the word, donate, whatever you want to do. How can they reach you?
Well, we have our own website at www.capitalwing.org. Anybody's welcome to join the unit. You can come out, get involved, be a part of this. It's a lot of fun. Meet a lot of great people. Honestly, I was attracted by the airplanes at first because I'm a wingnut, but it's the people you meet along the way that really make it special. The World War II veterans, it's always an honor to meet them. It doesn't happen very often anymore.
I know, it just gave me chills when you said that. Yeah. Well, that's it for the show. Honestly, I think this has been my favorite one so far, my favorite one to shoot anyway. I've never been inside one of these, not like this before anyway. It's been awesome. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.
So how about that, huh? Was that fun? That was interesting. A little warm that day, but now you know a little bit more about it, and the interesting thing with the nose art, which I think brings us to
My fun fact.
your fun fact,
My
which
fun
is
fact is all about Doris May. Actually, about the beginnings of Doris May and the TBM. Originally, she was painted nude.
Mm-hmm.
And then about 2 weeks later, the artiste was called, and he was told that he needed to change that.
Yeah.
I'll let you elaborate.
Okay, well, the original TBM, the historic one, in that squadron, as well as several others, had nose art in that. And this particular one was a nude. The artist originally who did it was, I guess wasn't very good at doing pinups, nudes, and whatever. So it was very crude. It was two-dimensional and almost cartoon. It was just... Anyway, it was what it was. So when I got called in the task to do it, I suggested, hey, this is a famous Varga pinup. Would you mind if I did it just like that rather than doing the crude version? I mean, if I got to sign it, I don't want people to think that's my artwork. So they said, sure, go ahead, have at it. And I was like, okay, great. So I did it, and it came out beautifully, as you can see here. And I get a phone call 2 weeks later and says, hey, there's a problem with the nose art. And I said, what's going on? And they said, well, headquarters saw it, and they said you have to put some clothes on her. So I said, okay, well, that's not a problem, and because there's a stipulation evidently in their rule book pertaining to the CAF on all their airplanes that if it has nose art, it has to be tastefully done, and the pinup has to be clothed. They didn't know that. So I said, okay, fine, we'll just put a bikini on her. So I did some research and looked at period bikinis, and I just thought the yellow and black polka dot would look good on the blue, contrasting airplane. So that's what we did. And they had it in some kind of open cockpit day, or once a month they'd have like an open hangar day. And if the weather's nice, they roll out all the airplanes, and they just have people come along and see, and just they don't charge for that. Just come on over and check out some of the stuff. So that's when I did it. We had a table set up. I had some panels and brochures, and so I did it. Plein air. Plain air. It's P-L-A, not P-L-A-N-E, P-L-A-I-N, and I think there's an E-A-I-R, which is a French word for meaning out in the open. Anyway, bet you didn't think I knew that, did you?
I didn't know it was a French word. I thought you just meant
Plain
plain, as
air.
in plain and simple air.
No, it's a French word
P-L-A-I-N?
meaning out in the open. You know how painters used to
Oh, I
paint
thought
out.
it was just two words, English, meaning
See,
plain
so
air.
she learned something too.
Huh.
Anyway, so that's
I
what
think
it
they
is.
stole that from
No,
us.
I just thought it was cool because plain airplanes, yeah, it was cute.
And
Yeah,
plain
whatever.
air. So
Plain
that's
air.
3 terms.
Yeah.
Plain air, P-L-A-N-E, plain air, P-L-A-I-N.
Well, I think-
and
yeah,
plain
yeah.
air, the French
The French
word.
meaning for
Yeah.
open air. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, moving along. So I did this, out on the tarmac, and there was a little crowd gathering. Hey, what are you doing? All the kids, and like, oh, you putting a bikini? Oh, that mom, she's naked, and all that stuff. So not for long. So anyway, so that's where it is today, and how the airplane is presented. With the yellow polka dot bikini. So
There's a song about that too, the
Yeah.
yellow polka dot bikini.
mhm.
Itsy bitsy. I'm not
Okay.
gonna sing. Don't worry.
Anyway, so we're doing also a shout out since we're on the subject of the CAF. Diamond Lil's back out again. It's had its main landing gear had new struts done. So and it's everyone in that down in Texas and on that team. And Rick Garbus, who's the crew chief, and Rick, we're gonna have you on. I'm gonna be calling you. We're gonna be talking about Diamond Lil. We're gonna talk Fifi. We're gonna talk about the new stuff that's going on, your new home, basically.
Diamond Lil.
Yeah. Well, that was
She's your
it's one of my favorite. Plus, she's been down, plagued by all kinds of mechanicals more than she is out. And to top it off, there's no air shows last year, so
Yeah.
a lot of people haven't seen it and don't know that there's another B-24 flying, even though it's the early model A, and it's still not quite 100% an A, but it will be at some point. With it's all money. You throw enough money at something, and you put money behind a brick, you can make it fly. The space shuttle is a perfect example of that. Anyway, so we're going to see Diamond Lil. It's doing it. They're doing training now. They're training new people for their crew. While it's stretching its new legs, it's got new engines, new wheels, and not new wheels, but new landing gear. So they're out flying. I think as we speak. I know they're doing stuff this weekend, getting their people trained up, and then they're going to go back out on the circuit. Hopefully join Fifi because they're a team together, and do some shows. So I hope that they come up Manassas. They've been up here before, so hopefully. They'll come up in the Mid-Atlantic region so we could be reunited once again. It's been such a long time. I think it's been 2, maybe 3 years since I've seen Diamond Lil in person. So be good to see the crew and everybody associated with that airplane back out and flying again. All right, so congrats anyway. So we're going to move on, and what's the questions next? I think?
Question, yes. This week's question comes to us from Sarasota, Florida. Joy Johnson wants to know, what was the first pinup you ever painted professionally? How long did it take you to paint that pinup? And if you still do that pinup today, how long does it take you today?
Well, Memphis Belle was one of the first pinups that I've done. When I first started this business, I did 6 to 10, maybe even a dozen pieces. And the Memphis Belle, I wanted household names people could associate. Everyone's familiar with that. Flying Tigers, Enola Gay, Black Sheep, those kind of things. It's to me as a start was just made common sense. Go with what people already are familiar with. So the Memphis Belle. And back in the 90s, even still fresh off of their, the movie Memphis Belle, which was done, when was that, 87, 89? It was late 80s. So, it was still relatively new and out there. So, that was the first pinup that I literally worked on. And it took me, I guess, early on, probably about 3, maybe 4 hours. Now, since I've done hundreds of them, I don't even need reference. I just, I have it in my head now. I've done so many. It's just, I could do it in my sleep kind of thing.
Like you're on autopilot.
Yeah, it's now I cut that time about in half. So, and that's now with some shading, you know,
crazy.
and I try to keep it as close to the original, even though I had just a little bit, embellish it with some shading and make it look better than what the original was, but, you know, just so it's, you know, again, I could take, you know, artistic license with some things, but without, you know, going astray too far, unlike Doris May, where I took complete artistic license, but, so, yeah, and I've done, like, again, hundreds of them, the Memphis Belle, that is, over and over and over again, that, you know, I'm so proficient now in getting everything done, you know, it's a no-brainer. Now, compare that to, say, customs, you know, where each one, like if I've never done one before, it's like starting all over again. I have to do the research, I have to do the digital computer work and making templates before I even commit to paint. So it takes me, on average, I guess on commission, you know, on our stock panels, you know, say, about 4 or 5 hours, you know, for doing it the first time, because they usually are a little bit more elaborate, very highly detailed, and you know, look like, you know, the calendar.
Now, you know, you might want to clarify too, because there might be somebody watching who had commissioned you to paint something and it took you several weeks. That, you know, like the drying time and the making the mold and all that stuff.
There, you mean the template? Well,
Yeah, all that stuff.
Well, it would take shorter, but at any given time, I'm always, you know, revolving at least a dozen projects. So, you know, that project, as I get an order, it'll go into queue, you know, where it'll get us, you know, assigned a panel. I'll, you know, have a panel built, made. You know, if it's not me, you know, one of my guys will rivet the panel, it gets base coated, drying time, and then, you know, as I'm, you know, as all that's going on, I'm still working on other projects. So it's not like somebody calls in and say, you know, how come it's taking you 3 weeks to do? Well, because I have a dozen other projects in queue, some taking longer, and so everything, you know, at, you know, whatever given day, it's like, okay, what am I working on today? What needs to go out? You know, this has been sitting here for a while. I got to work on this, and so there's just all these little projects going on at the same time. Which, if you saw the, you know, the shop in an earlier episode, you could see the drying racks where all the panels are sitting. So all those are getting all done at the same time.
Organized chaos.
So it's not, yeah. So it's not like, you know, I sit there for 4 hours and it should be done. No. It's all, you know, one color has to go on, it has to sit there and dry because they're oil-based colors. It's not like acrylics. So we use oil-based products, you know, just like the old days. In fact, the paints that I use, the companies are over 100 years old. So it's likely they were making paints for the nose artists back then, too. The only difference in that paint is they took the lead out, you know, just because of OSHA and you know, all the rules now, which is understandably so. Who wants to paint with lead now? We don't need it. So, but the formula on the paint that I use hasn't really changed all that much, if at all, but except for the exception of the lead. So, you know, in dealing with oil-based paints that dries actually quickly, you have to be very careful. There's not a lot of time for error. If you wait too much time, the paint could start to drag, and then you get all these bumps in the paint, and it starts to not look right, and it's just... So it's very tricky in the paints that I use, and that's why maybe it's hard for others. You know, it's not an easy paint to use for blending. It was never intended for blending. Oh, could you shut that off? Oh, you know where it is?
I know.
Okay, hang on a second. Let me do that. Be right back.
Uh-oh.
I forgot about that. The AC. Anyway, I'm back. So where was I? Okay, so the paints that I'm using, yeah, blending is not very easy in the, you know, the paints that I'm using. So yeah, it takes me, well, if I were to say from start to finish on a panel project, how many hours it would take? 12 to 14, you know, on custom stuff, generally over a span of, you know, weeks. Because as I stated, there's a whole bunch of other projects that are being done, so I have to pick and choose the battles and what I'm going to be doing that day. So anyway, if you guys have ordered from us before, and you know, that's why we used to say 4 to 6 weeks on panels, and maybe even longer on custom things, or we have to fabricate something with metal. Now that's a whole different ballgame. That takes even longer because we have to, you know, figure in. There's a little engineering involved, and you know, to figure how stuff works and put things together. We have to blueprint, trial and error, R&D. So,
Christmas is always busier too.
yeah. Like those lockers that are sitting there.
Yeah.
Those took months to do. That was a very complex thing, and we had to build 3 of them.
Did you ever show them the lockers? You should show them.
No, I think they may be, whatever. We'll get into that.
Post a picture.
Yeah, there's more stuff that needs to be built too. But, all right, so that's the answer to that question. It's a long one, but, okay, what do we got
That
next?
was a great question.
Yeah, thanks,
And a good
Joy,
answer.
for chiming in on that. Fun fact?
Fun fact.
Oh, was
I
that the
already
Doris
said
May?
the fun fact,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
Doris May.
All right, so let's do then a shout out. We're shouting out next weekend, just like last weekend, we're not going to be around. We are going to the M3 Music Festival, which is, a hard rock 80s kind. It's a 3-day thing. We have all the bands from that period of time who are around, and yeah, we're friends with several of them, and they're only 2 hours from where we are here outside of Baltimore. So we're going to be going to that show on Saturday, and then spending the night because it's an all-day thing, and we're going to catch up with Wolf Hoffman from Accept. Talk to him about a potential project I'm trying to twist his arm on. So he had mentioned this as well. I'm not 100% in control of this particular thing. We'll see. Either way, if it happens, great. If not, then that's okay too. We're still going to have fun talking to him. We're also going to sit down with Mealy from Steelheart, who's a longtime friend of mine. I've known him for 35 years. God, since he was a teenager. I mean, when I started first playing and bumped into him, and he was a singer, and actually he wasn't really even in a band then. He just came over from Croatia with his parents. And I guess he put an ad out or something. I forget how that worked. And me and my friend Jim, we were looking for a singer at the time. And he came in and we were like, wow, this kid is, he was, I think, 16 or 17. Nobody knew who he was. And he was living in Stamford and I think moved to Greenwich then later. So, we had, brought him in a couple of times in a rehearsal place in Norwalk and, introduced him to other people. And that's a whole nother story. We're going to get into Mealy with that one of these days.
That's another whole
with Jim.
podcast.
Yeah, we're going to try to tell everybody the story because I think it's worth telling on how, a lot of people know Mealy and Steelheart, at least in the circle of friends, Northeast, Connecticut, New York, and Red Alert, the band before that. But there was actually more to that story prior to Red Alert that me and my friend Jim were involved with Mealy at the time, who nobody knows. Except for a few people, and some of those people have now passed, unfortunately, who were first sort of involved in that whole thing. But we want to get to that story at some point in the future, and I think that'll be cool for sort of our rock people. Not maybe so much aviation guys, but hey, this is the WingNut and RockHead show, so we mixed a little bit of both together.
There's a lot of aviation guys who are into rock.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. What better to fly to than a little 80s metal?
Hey,
right?
I mean, hey, AC/DC,
Yeah.
anything by them, it will get you going.
You can do anything to AC/DC.
That's correct. So anyway, so that's who we're hooking up for next week. We're going to try to set something up for future podcasts regarding that in the rock vein, and maybe expand into that sort of realm with the rock people who are not necessarily aviation people, kind of cross-platform there and market and see if we could kind of draw in some of that.
Need some more aviators.
Yeah, well, something like that. Anyway, but that's what we're doing next week, and we'll have some footage, hopefully. If there's anything that we can capture worth, sharing with you guys, we will certainly do that. But so that's, again, we will not be absent. We're just going to be, let's say,
otherwise engaged.
Yeah, we are. So I guess that's it, right? That wraps up the show. If you guys have any other questions regarding anything that we're doing or want to know something about what we're going to do or what we have done in the past, questions, that kind of thing, just, chime in, email, text message. You got Facebook, you got YouTube. The YouTube channel is Nozart1.
Ideas, what should we do?
Yeah, you guys have any ideas
you wanna
you want
hear?
us to cover? That's fine. I mean, we're limited. We have a shoestring budget. We have a part-time producer right now. So we don't have a crew that we're paying. So that's why you get what you get here. I mean, we're trying to do the best and give you something at least somewhat professional,
Yeah.
that you guys would be worthy
We're
of
working
watching.
on our structure too.
Well, if you're watching this, you're spending at least a half hour of your time. We want to try to entertain you with something and some facts and have some fun with it, and that kind of thing. Be happy and
More than anything.
not so
Have fun.
stringent as far as there's plenty of other those kind of podcasts. So we want to have fun. So we want to help you guys help us make it fun too. So tell us what you think, and subscribe to the channel. That's important too, so you can see all the other stuff and content that we have. There's not a whole lot. This will be the 9th show.
Like it, subscribe,
yeah.
and ask for alerts.
Right,
Hit the
and
little bell.
there's a couple of other videos that I've done way in the past, but which might be entertaining, and some are done nice.
I
and
see ghosts. Great one.
That's a good one. The alpha thing, and that's always good. But so there's a lot of things to get to, but 1 week at a time, hopefully, and we hope to see you again next week. Enjoy this show.
Week after.
Week after, right. Thanks for watching the WingNut and RockHead show. See you next time.